I was actually interested in playing it when it was the tower defense game. Okay, so well, we ranking RE games. You know it. We ranking the RE games. All right, so let's do this. Let me lower the music down just a little bit. Hopefully, it's not ear blasting loud. I feel like that should be good. RE ranks. So this is my tier list of the Resident Evil series, and this should be the mainline games. So what do we got to work with? We got Resident Evil 0, the original Resident Evil. Same thing, OG 2 and 3 for PlayStation 1. RE4 and any of its incarnations. Same thing with 5 and 6. 7, Code Veronica, remake of RE1, and then remake of RE2. There's no remake of RE3, but I know where I'm going to put that in the tier list. And then, of course, Revelations 1 and 2. And I've played Revelations 1. I've played a little bit of Revelations 2, but I haven't gone through it. So the only two that I haven't beaten on this list is Code Veronica and Revelations 2. I've played everything else. Again, this is just the mainline series and the essential spin-offs. So, we'll start from left to right. RE0. Now, this is the first game I streamed last year for my revisit of the Resident Evil games from one end to the other. And although I really enjoy it, and it has a good story, and it came out in the GameCube, in its traditional Resident Evil, as in tank controls, I do remember having a few areas of one area of confusion being the way that the item management works. And that is that there are no treasure boxes in the entire game, which is a staple of Resident Evil. All the way up until 3. Maybe Code Veronica? I don't remember if item boxes are in Veronica. But it's pretty much a staple from all the way up until 4. And then you get the Taché case. But the way you item manage is either you pass items between your partner, which is either Billy or Rebecca, or you just drop stuff on the floor. I'm not even kidding. You just literally drop things on the ground. And the thing about that can be good is like, oh, I'll drop this thing, I'll pick up this key item, and I'll come back for this thing. And then you're like, alright, that actually worked. Or you'll drop stuff by a safe room that you're just constantly going back and forth between. And then you're like, alright, I'll leave this here for when I really need it. And then you realize that you go to like a different area of the map and you can't go back. Or you forget where you dropped that thing because you were like, I need this item now. So it's a blessing and a curse, but it's more a curse than a blessing. Otherwise, the combat is fine. Stories, again, Resident Evil, it's fine. It leads right into Resident Evil 1. In case you didn't know. With the title such as Resident Evil 0, but I don't hate the game. It's fun to play. Like, I don't mind... I don't mind when people bad talk it or smash. What's the word? Yeah, I guess badmouth it. I understand why a lot of people hate it, but I still have fun with it. There's good puzzles. There's a lot of exploration. Again, the cutscenes, the voice acting, it's all really well done. I mean, it's still cheesy. The dialogue has always been cheesy, but it's well made. I almost kind of view this as like a DMC2, but it's not as bad as DMC2. I definitely have more fun playing that than DMC2, so I think I'm going to take this. I'm going to put it C tier. It's not D. Definitely ain't anything B or above, but it's C. It's just good. It's good for a single playthrough. I think I've played that game maybe 3 times to completion my entire life, and I think I'm good. unless Capcom remakes the first Resident Evil, then I'll have to play all these again. But I'm giving it a C. It's fun, a little tedious, but it is fun. Okay, so next up is Resident Evil PlayStation. Oh man, this one takes me back. I want to say way back when I was but a little Egil the visual culturist. My cousin introduced me to Resident Evil back in the day. He had I think by the time I got like a Super Nintendo, PlayStation was like already a thing. So I was like, I've always been a generation behind my entire life. So I've always had this cousin who has like, he gets everything day one. And I remember him playing the Resident Evil games, particularly 3, on his computer. And this was like back in the 90s, like early 2000s, late 90s. And I remember just like literally sitting on the couch next to him. Like I'd go over and spend the night, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, what the hell is this game?" And he's like, "Resident Evil? You've never heard of the Resident Evil?" I'm like, "No, what the heck is this game?" And then of course the little me would just be like, "Oh, spooky, scary games? I don't play those." It's like, you can't call yourself a gamer, my friend. And then he literally was like, "Here, you play." And I was like, "Oh." So I think the first Resident Evil game I've ever touched is 3. And I was like, I should not start there. But he was like, "Here, try it, see how you like it." And he's like, "I have the other Resident Evils. When I'm done with this one, you can play." So legitimately, I beat the first Resident Evil in chunks. I didn't even do it in a single, I did it over multiple sittings. I would spend the night at my cousin's house. He would play Resident Evil or something else on his computer, and then when he was done, he'd be like, "Alright, there you go. Your turn. Play whatever you want." I'd be like, "Alright." That's when I picked up this game. You put it right there. But I do remember getting lost like a whole lot. And then again, this is like, I didn't have the fandom, the love, the appreciation for the Resident Evil series that I do now. Like, they was, again, like, I was playing, my games back then were like Super Mario World, Yoshi's Island, Donkey Kong Country. These were the games, like, again, platformers and Mario Brothers, Killer Instinct. So the Resident Evil games were like very foreign to me for the longest of time. But I did eventually go through, beat the game. I think I beat the game many moons back. I think it was when Nintendo remade Resident Evil, and then they made RE0 and released them for the GameCube, and I went back and played them there. And again, the story with that is a friend of mine went and got a GameCube. When they remade those games, he's like, "Alright, I'm getting a GameCube, getting the Resident Evil games, let's play them." And I sat on the couch next to him, just hanging out while he would play these games on like a ginormous 70-inch TV and like at his parents' garage. I'm not kidding, like that TV must have been like definitely, and that was like stupid big even for back then. Again, this is like early 2000s. And we just play Resident Evil. Like, he'd play, and then he would die, and then he would pass the controller, and then I'd play when I'd die, and then I'd pass the controller back, and we would do that. Like, oh man, I don't know, like, almost daily back in the day. And that's when I beat Resident Evil. That was me, right? Right? So that's like my real first memory playing and beating that game. like laughing at the Jill sandwich. And again, this is like probably PS2 is a thing now. I'm playing PlayStation games. I've spent 60 hours in RE1. I think I did the bare minimum. Technically, the first Resident Evil, I kind of like couch co-opted it, sort of. So that was like definitely an assisted playthrough, but I saw it through to the end. That was like my first real big taste of Resident Evil. And I wouldn't get super into the series just yet, but I'd be like, okay, that was fun. I'm thinking I'm liking these games. Playing as Jill, of course, the original OG Resident Evil waifu. But again, it's the first one. It started the series. It sold phenomenally well. I remember when it came out at recess. We used to talk about this. Like, I remember like you were the cool kid if you're like, oh man, what are the games you play? Oh, you heard about that Resident Evil? People would be like, oh what? It's like, oh dude, that game is tough. Like, and then people would talk about tofu and cheat codes and stuff. I remember that. I very vividly remember talking about Resident Evil at recess and stuff. So it has a very huge nostalgia, I guess you could say, sentimental value to me. Again, the game is fine. It's clunky, tank controls, but it functions. It paved the way for the horror genre. I'll never forget fighting the spiders and being freaked out. I mean, I couldn't handle PS1 spiders. And now we're on PS4 and I still can't handle them. They've only gotten more terrifying. But back then, I was like, oh. It like blew my mind. I was like, I don't know if I can handle this Resident Evil series. But it left a lasting impression. And that's what I think I'm getting at. It's like, this is something that I will never forget. And one day I'll go back and play through the series. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and put it B tier. So, again, now we're on to Resident Evil 2. OG Resident Evil 2. Now, I played that. Oh, man. After I beat the first Resident Evil, it was like years until I went back and like played the rest of the games. Oof. Alright. It was years before I went back and played the rest of the games. I think I played Resident Evil 2 on my was it my PSP? I think it was my PSP. It was like one of the first Sony handheld, and you could play PS1 classics from the PS3 on it. And that was like Resident Evil was like, I think that was around the time Resident Evil 4 came out. And so everyone, again, you're kind of getting a pattern. Resident Evil comes back into fashion, I get interested and I try more of the games. So I played 2. I remember laying down on my bed with my PSP, I would play it like non-stop. From beginning to end. I did both Leon and Claire playthroughs, and I was like, oh man, this is 2 characters, 2 campaigns, what the heck? Tyrant? Ah! Getting scared, seeing the Raccoon Police Department, getting lost, of course. Hours of getting lost. But it was like, this is just like Resident Evil, but so much better. Again, voice acting much improved. But I had a lot of fun. I beat it on my own. I played it by myself. I was like the first Resident Evil that I had. I went, I don't want to say out of my way, but I was like, I'm going to try this, I'm going to play this, and I'm going to beat it. And I played the F out of this game. And it's because of this game I'm gonna go ahead and put it A tier. Then I went and did my research, and I mean did my research. Like I went, I think it was what, AOL, and started finding like all the lore I could. After I beat Resident Evil 2, I became like, for a time, I was like the keeper of the lore. Like if there's something you need to know about Resident Evil, I could tell you, and that was without playing all the other games. I was like, oh man, that's like I think I'm digging this series. There was like, I remember seeing books like at Barnes and Noble Borders, novels and stuff that my friends would read, and like, oh yeah, read the novel. It's pretty good. It gives you some insight into the games. I'm like, oh my goodness. So that's like, Resident Evil 2 was like the beginning of me going just onto the deep end in Resident Evil. So for that, along with the gameplay, the fact that I didn't just beat it once, but multiple times, and I still beat this game to this day, every once in a while, not to mention the remake. But that game, huge for me, and I think it definitely stands the test of time. Like, you could still play this game today, and you could still have a stupid amount of fun. RE lore was my shit. Yeah, me too, man. Me too, Tim Kara. I'm telling you, I was like, oh, I was the cool kid for a while, telling everyone, it's like, what the heck? That happens? And I'm like, yep. I was like, for a time, I'm telling you, I was like the keeper of the Bible. I'm like, let me read for you. Wesker 4-5, thou shalt always administer the T-virus. I was on top of it, and I have Resident Evil 2 to thank for that. Now, Resident Evil 3, OG Resident Evil 3. Let's see. I think it's just gonna put it somewhere. We'll keep it down here for right now. OG Resident Evil 3. So, again, I've played this on stream before, a couple times actually. This is the first Resident Evil I was ever introduced to. Tyrants 6-9 star. Yeah, exactly. So you guys know, I see you too are cultured. This was Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is the first Resident Evil game I was ever this was the first one I was shown. So this is like my introduction, and it wouldn't be until after years later that I would actually go back and play it on my own. The same way that I did 2. On my PSP, I played 3. I was like, oh man, alright. Back with Jill, OG Resident Evil waifu, well, I'm gonna have some fun. And then to my surprise, it's way less exploration, more action, which was a kind of a little, I don't want to say distraction, but a little like, okay, this definitely plays a little bit different from the first Resident Evil RE2, but I liked it. Nemesis was goddamn terrifying. I liked the choices you could make. Nemesis is approaching. Jump out the window or fire. And I always ran. There's a clip of me running. And in this very game, from the Nemesis, it's called being a parry. I encourage everyone to watch the clip. But it always terrified me. I'm like, Jesus, mini strokes. Even little me having mini strokes playing this game on my PSP. This was like, oh man, this was like one of those games you touch and then you don't put it down until you beat it again. And again, with the whole what's now called like the water cooler effect, where all of us we're pretty much grown up and we have these sick ass conversations with our coworkers on break, are like, oh dude, you playing this game? You playing that? Oh, have you seen this? Or did you do that? Did you know about this? That's kind of what this game was too. Me just asking a lot of my friends questions, like in passing, in between classes. It's like, oh dude, you playing that game? Nice. Did you know you could do this? It's like, what? So again, it was like, I have fond memories of 3. I know